Alright, so this is the Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition R10 gaming desktop. But don't let that long name scare you away from this review, because Dell's first AMD Aurora gaming PC certainly has a lot to unpack. Starting with the design, I ordered the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10, meaning this dark gray color, called Dark Side of the Moon on Alienware's website, is actually the default color for this PC. You can actually get it in another color called Lunar Light, which is basically just white with some black accents, but I personally think this sort of matte black color looks better. Now when it comes to the shape of the PC, the Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition R10 is certainly unique. It starts off with this sort of cylindrical shape in the front, which then gets wider as you move on to the back. It also has these hexagonal cutouts throughout the case that are used for ventilation. Moving to the front, we have the power button at the top, which is the Alienware logo, along with 3 USB-A ports, 2 of them being super speed, a USB-C port, and 2 headphone jacks. Now, that's actually not all of the ports. On the back of the PC, we have an extra 10 USB-A ports, 4 of them being super speed, along with 1 Thunderbolt 3 port, 3 display ports, an HDMI port, and an Ethernet port. So in general, the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10 stacks up pretty well with other PCs in terms of its design. I definitely do get the whole Dyson Airfan look, and I actually think it's a decent look. I don't really mind the fact that it is kind of an odd cylinder shape, and it definitely does look like some other household appliances, but I actually do kind of like the design. I figure as long as the PC is made out of decent quality material, I don't see any reason why a design like this would be controversial, but we'll get to that in a second. Back to the port situation, 13 ports, that's a lot actually. For other PCs in sort of the early $2,000 range like this one, 13 ports is quite a bit, so maybe even more than you actually need. But either way, all those ports have to lead to somewhere, so with that said, what exactly is inside the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10? Now when you open up this PC, a couple things may catch your eye, including this AMD Ryzen 7 5800, which is liquid cooled. We also have an RTX 3060 Ti that's a custom 3060 Ti made by Dell for these Aurora PCs. At the top, we have a pretty generic Alienware ATX motherboard. Down at the bottom here, I have 2 empty hard drive slots that I could use if I ever didn't want to use an SSD, or if I just want some extra storage. Now if we squeeze in here and go to the right, we have 2 8GB HyperX RAM sticks. Alright, so now that you've seen what's inside, you may be wondering how the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10 performs. How good is it at gaming, video editing, anything you would normally use a PC for? Well, this is a gaming PC, so it would only make sense if we tested gaming first. Alright, so this is the setup I've put together. Right over here, I have the PC, the AMD Ryzen Edition R10, right here, and then I also have a keyboard and mouse, which both actually, I forgot to tell you guys this, but these both actually came with the PC. So this is a pretty standard, just Dell keyboard and mouse. They were free of charge whenever you order an Aurora PC, you get one of these, and you can actually pay about $50 extra to upgrade to a slightly higher quality keyboard and mouse, better for gaming with like actual red switches and a better gaming mouse, but these are the ones that came with computer free of charge, so I figured I might as well use them for the video because it pairs pretty well with this PC. Then right over here, we have a 27-inch Alienware monitor, which again pairs with this PC. However, I will admit it's in the wrong color. I know it's white and the PC is black, but still, it's actually a pretty good monitor. I'll be doing a review on this monitor on its own pretty soon. It'll come out probably right after this video, but for now we're just going to be using it for this test. Alright, so we're back at the setup here, and I should probably mention I've added one extra thing. I have a Fifine USB microphone. You can get it off Amazon. It's not the most amazing microphone, but it's alright. It gets the job done, and I think it's decent, but definitely not a super good microphone. Just going to be using it for some better audio during this section of the video. Now, I'm just going to turn on the PC here, turn on the monitor, and as you can see, right as we turn this on, there is a sort of like an Alienware logo on the right, and we have some Alienware text right next to it. And in the top left, it's a 60 Hz. That should switch to 240 Hz pretty soon, hopefully. Should just kind of flash off for a second, and that should make the switch. Alright, there we are, 240 Hz. I'm just going to sign into this, and we can get started with our first test. So first, we're going to be doing Minecraft. Alright, we've opened the launcher. Opened pretty fast, which is not surprising. Just the launcher, and then I'm going to open Optifine here, and we're going to head into Minecraft, and we're going to test out the shader packs to see how this AMD Ryzen Edition R10 can handle Minecraft with ray tracing shaders. Should be pretty well, because after all, it's a 30 series card. They kind of specialize in ray tracing, so I'm expecting some good results here. But we won't know until we actually test it. So let's head into single player. We're going to create a new world. I'm just going to make this creative, I guess. And yeah, so we're going to load this up. Loading pretty fast. Should only take a couple seconds. And yeah, we're already loaded. That was pretty quick, but that's not a surprise to me. The real test will be when we load in. So here we are, right by a nice little lake here. Looks pretty nice. I really do like ray tracing shaders. You can see that the grass and the leaves are kind of moving around a bit. And the water is my favorite part. Look at how realistic this water looks. Definitely should take a decent hit to the system with graphics this amazing. Even though it is just Minecraft, but it is pretty cool. So we're going to go into shaders. Right now we're using Sooth PTGI, so it's called Sooth Renewed on the system. And I'm a big fan of the water mainly in Sooth. I think Continuum is pretty good, but I think Sooth has some better water animations. It has like the waves look a bit more realistic and that sort of thing. And if we open up Task Manager here, let's see how the PC is handling this. So we go to performance. CPU is kind of going between 15 to 20% usage. If we go down to the memory, we're about 9 gigabytes out of 16, so not using too much of the memory. Definitely glad I opted for 16 gigs instead of 8, because gaming with 8 gigs of memory is not really something you can do. You definitely want to get at least 16. 32 is really preferable for gaming. Our GPU is being used quite a bit. It's at currently 69 degrees Celsius, which is not bad, but if it was like at around 90, 95 Celsius, that'd be a bit too hot. But as you can see, it's our FPS in the left corner. We're kind of going between like around 70, actually around 55 to 70 FPS, which isn't terrible. Definitely still very playable. It kind of hangs sort of near the 60 FPS range, so I would still say it's very playable even while screen recording, which I am doing. So now we're going to switch over to Continuum, and we're going to see how different Continuum looks and how it affects the system in different ways. So we've loaded up Continuum here, and as you can see, it does look a bit different. The waves look a little different. Things are loading in a little bit slower, I've noticed. So the frame rate does kind of seem on average to be a little bit higher. We're kind of in like the 75, more like the 70 to 80 FPS range, I guess. And if we jump in here, water looks pretty cool. You can even see the reflection of the sun through the water. If we fly up here and turn the time to night, it's one of my favorite things to do in ray tracing shader packs. Time set night. It looks pretty amazing. Just kind of sunset you can see in the background, and then the water with the kind of like dark background we have here. It looks pretty cool. So right now, I've kind of moved around a bit. More chunks have loaded in. We're kind of at about 40 FPS, which isn't terrible, but I guess that is maybe starting to get closer to the, you know, not sort of the best experience sort of range. Like we're kind of getting close to around 30 FPS. So Continuum, I would say, takes more of a load on the system than Sooth PTGI. So that's about it for Minecraft. Now, I actually want to try out Valorant. So a lot of people, when they buy a gaming PC, they want to play games like Valorant. I like Valorant. I will admit I'm not great at Valorant, but I like the game a lot, and I know it's a very, very popular shooter game right now. A lot of people are playing it, so I figured it would only make sense if I tried out Valorant. So we're going to open up Valorant. See how long this takes. It should open fairly quickly like Minecraft. Alright, so we've loaded in Valorant. I'm just going to click play at the top here, and I'm going to open a deathmatch, so just a bit of a quicker match, just to kind of see how the PC handles Valorant. Now, I'm expecting some good results. Valorant is all like CSGO. If you've ever played CSGO, you know that it runs at a very high frame rate, even on lower end PCs, like PCs with a 1050, 1080, whatever, anything like that. It still runs at a pretty solid like 100 plus FPS. So on a PC like this, I'm expecting 300 plus FPS. Alright, so we found our match. I'm on blue. And we're loading into Breathe right now, so I'm just gonna buy a Guardian just to test this out. It's a pretty common gun in Valorant to buy. Okay, well, I already died once. I've said before I'm not great at Valorant, but we're gonna see if we can get a couple kills, kind of test this out a bit. Got one kill. Right now, it looks like we're, yeah, so just as I expected, we're at about 300 to 400 FPS, so looking pretty good. CPU render time, we're at kind of fluctuating between 1.2 to 1.3 milliseconds. So that's about how long the CPU is taking to like render objects around me, and that's pretty good actually. That's not super slow. That's pretty fast. All right, I'm gonna see if I can win this match. Yeah, everything's looking pretty good. I'm not seeing any issues here. Valorant should run very well on this PC, as expected. Alright, so I think that's probably going to be about it for Valorant. I'm going to close out of this. And we're going to try out our last test for now, which is going to be some DaVinci Resolve 4K video export time. So we're going to load up DaVinci Resolve here. It should just take a second. And yeah, so here we are. You can kind of get like a sneak peek of some of my projects I've used to make some of my older videos. I always use DaVinci Resolve with my editor, and you can see some of my projects here. So we're just going to create a new project. I'm just not going to really give it a title. I don't think I need one. I'm going to import the 4K video. There we go. So this is just a 5-minute 4K video. We're going to make sure we have the correct project settings here. Okay, so we need to change that. So 1080p currently, change that to 4K Ultra HD, 60 FPS. Change that. Alright, that looks pretty good. I'm going to save that, and then we're going to import the video. So if we go over to the edit page here, you can see it looks pretty good. It should play, yeah, plays very well in playback, no issues there. But we haven't made any edits yet. If you're making a lot of edits to 4K video, you may see the frame kind of drop down a little bit, which is normal for a PC like this. But right now it looks pretty good. But we're just going to be focusing on the export time. We're going to head over to the deliver page, go to MP4, and we're going to just give it a name, I guess just call it 4K video test. Add to render queue. It's going to save it to downloads for now. We're going to render that. We're going to see how long that takes. I'll get back to you after this is done rendering, and then I will show detailed metric of all sorts of different things we explored during the performance test, such as like the GPU, average GPU temperature, how long obviously this export test took, and other things like frame rate, things like that. So, alright, so the recording's done. It completed in 7 minutes 29 seconds, which that's not bad. Right now I'm going to put those metrics I talked about earlier on the screen so you can see all of that. You can see how all the tests did at the very end of this, how everything turned out, how this PC performed. You should be able to see all that right now. And yeah, I think it did pretty well. I think it was a very interesting set of tests to really see how this thing performs while gaming, video editing, anything like that. I think it did pretty well. So with that said, that's the end of this section. I'm going to move on to the conclusion. So in conclusion, should you buy the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10? Well, despite what other people might say, I would say yes. You're still getting a very good PC for your money, and especially today with the GPU and just chip shortage we have in general, it can be very hard to get late-gen GPUs or even some late-gen CPUs unless you buy a pre-built. And if you're going through that process, I would at least check out the AMD Ryzen Edition Aurora R10. Sure, there were some interesting features that seemed a little bit odd at first while going through the review, but at the end of the day, it's a good value, it performs very well, and I would say that it's still overall a pretty good gaming PC.